we are talking about JANIN, also known as FETUS is its English translation. And this is an Indonesian movie directed by Uk Budiono and is essentially a ghost story, and it focuses on this couple where they are recently married and the wife is pregnant. And in this kind of large house that they live in, there seems to be some type of malevolent presence, some type of spirit which seems to be interested in primarily the wife and this unborn baby. To add to kind of like the mystery, we have this sinister kind of neighbour who seems to know more than she's letting on, and we also have this, later on, this kind of nurse that is employed by the husband who seems, again, just a little bit off, a little bit creepy, and ultimately there is a kind of a mystery behind all what's going on. Of course, I'm not going to tell you what it is, you have to watch the movie to find out. So let's first discuss, I think, what works. So an Indonesian production. Obviously this is going to be a subtitle film, so bear that in mind if you like foreign language movies. First of all, let's talk about what I liked. So the one thing that struck me that I did kind of enjoy about this movie more than anything else, I think, was the interactions between husband and wife, this kind of couple. The way they kind of are with each other, I think, even for, I always find it quite difficult to sometimes really judge acting from foreign language movies, but just their physical acting, the way they roll their eyes and things like this, and this kind of, the husband doesn't quite believe what's kind of going on and all of this sort of things, and he's trying to sort of support his wife at the same time, and the wife's getting frustrated because she sort of is seeing things, but she knows the husband doesn't believe him. It's just kind of standard stuff, but nonetheless, I think it is it's well acted, and kind of the characters are quite well written, I have to say. Another thing I really liked is we have these two secondary characters, the neighbour and the nurse, and they both act kind of sinister, but you don't really know initially, are they on the kind of the same page? Are they opposed to one another? Do either of them have kind of either malicious intent, or are they benevolent? You kind of, again, it's this kind of like underlying, you're not quite sure about, whose motivations are kind of pure and whose aren't. And I thought that was a good thread through the movie, having these kind of both creepy and seemingly sinister forces that may or may not be there to help or maybe even hinder. There is a kind of a mystery that is involved, and I thought that's actually quite good. And I actually do think it speaks to fears that people may have in relationships, and it ultimately stems from probably a problem in relationships that happens quite a lot. Again, I don't want to spoil things, but nonetheless, I think it taps into that kind of the fears that people have of being in a relationship, and then obviously within childbirth as well, which I thought was kind of quite good. There are a couple of well set up kind of creepy moments as well. So what doesn't work? To be honest, this film is pretty generic. It's more or less a kind of a standard haunted house movie with nothing really to kind of separate itself out from the crowd. I wouldn't say it's necessarily bad at any one kind of point really. Maybe I'm going to go into a few more points where I think it dips a little bit, but nonetheless it's fairly sort of similar to what you've seen many times before. But there are a couple of things that maybe could have done better. I think some of the supporting characters are quite overacting. So as I've mentioned, we have this neighbour and this nurse, both of whom there seems to be something not quite right. But it's played like, let's do creepy acting 101 to definitely try and make the audience realise that these guys are something untoward with them. And it's like Bond villain. It's almost kind of like silly the way these two kind of overact and kind of overemphasise their kind of like that they know something else is going on and there's something not quite right about them. It's just a little bit too obvious, and the acting seems a little bit hammy at times from the pair of them. I gotta say the special effects are relatively weak. I think they work when they're in kind of there's a flash and we don't see it for very much, and it's just like on screen for an instant. But when we have the longer shots, particularly in the kind of the third act, things like the practical makeup on this kind of like this ghostly figure's hands looks like it's kind of made out of paper mache, and then we have some CGI elements that I think didn't need to be done. For example, we have someone bleeds out their mouth, and it's done with CGI. Then how hard would that have been to have done with a bit of practical blood? Again, and it doesn't look very good. It looks kind of fake. The other thing that kind of goes hand in hand with that, the movie has this weird sort of daytime soap TV feel to it. Maybe it's, you know, obviously because it's coming from Indonesia, it's filmed in a kind of a different way, but sort of like the kind of the soft edits, transitions between scenes, things like this, and just the kind of like the very open plan kind of house that they have. It seems like a soap opera, like a daytime TV drama type thing in a lot of aspects. And it also has the typical kind of things that you'll have in horror movies. Obviously, lots of jump scares here, some of which are earned, some of which are not. And also, I never ever see anyone else complain about it, only seems to be me. It's one of these things tropes that always takes me out of films, when you see someone kind of, say, looking in the foreground, and then we have a ghost walking behind them that we as the audience see, and then the kind of like the person will turn around and they'll be gone. But I think, well, who is that ghost appearing for? Because if the person in the film can't see it, and there's no one else in the room, why is it kind of appearing and then disappearing? Is it for us as the audience? Well, it is, because that's what the filmmakers are intending. But it doesn't make sense when you kind of think about it, because obviously in the world of this film, there's no one else there. So who is it appearing for? It doesn't kind of make sense. Overall, it's an okay kind of ghost story. I don't think it's anything too special. I think there are some strong story elements here, but it's let down by some shortcuts I think were made in the filmmaking, and a little bit of just cheesiness, to be quite honest with you. So I will give this one a 5 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment. And now shut up, forward, seeing you next time. Bye for now.